Before we start this video, a massive thank you to Halo Burner for their continued and immense support to the channel this month on Patreon. It is greatly appreciated, my friend. You are a legend, and I hope you enjoy the video. What's up, guys? Today we're going to get back to the scenes, make a trigger, and load some scenes. So by the end of this video, you'll have the system fully functional. Now, let's start out by making a function called load area based on the area you are currently in. What does this do? Well, this is going to be called every single time you enter a trigger to a new scene. So when you load in the scene, your character gets teleported to the coordinates, he enters the trigger, the scenes all load, you walk into a new area, walk upstairs, you enter a trigger, the new scenes load. Let's make this require a player. Let's open up the curly brackets, and I'm going to put some pseudo code here. We'd find out what area we're in. We could pass a string and do this using a chain of if statements, but that would be very messy. So let's instead use some enums to basically quickly reference these areas. And you can use strings if you want to. I just don't like saying if else, if else, if else. You're just comparing a string to a string, so it's not that bad to do so. This is just a preference. I find enums in this sense anyway would be a lot neater to look at and easier to understand. Switch statements are handy here. So just basically make every area that you have as an enum also, and this will be handy, by the way, if you're going to load and unload non-static objects by scene, because you can compare this with a world area tag using this enum. I'll expand on that in the future if you guys want for breakables, but don't worry about it for now. Let's jump back over to the world scene subscene manager again, and let's just make this require I called mine world areas, but I'm actually going to rename that to world subscene or world scene location, just like Nephilim, so I don't get confused. Because if not, I'm probably going to type out world scene location on accident like 7 times. So let's make some pseudocode. 1, is the player currently already in the area? If so, abort. We don't want to reload a set of scenes if the player is already in that area. That would just waste some time and memory. So let's not do that. So we make basically a function to determine that. And then number 2, remove the player from all current areas or from previous areas. We have a function for that already. We just need to call it here. Number 3, what is number 3? Number 3 is add the player to the new area that we're walking into. So if you're going from sub area 0 to 1, you're moving from 0, and then you add them to 1 after all these other checks have passed. And then we're going to load the new scenes around the area that he's in. So again, like I said before, if you're in area 2 and you need to load area 3 and 4, you will load 2, 3, and 4. And then finally, unload any unrequired scenes. So anybody who isn't in any scenes anymore that are visible, we're going to unload those. So this is called, again, I'll make a comment here. This is basically called whenever the player enters a trigger of any kind. This is how you're going to be basically loading and unloading scenes the most. This is going to use every single function we've created thus far. Basically, when you enter this, it's going to cascade down to loading or unloading other scenes. So let's make a private bool. And I'm going to call this is player already in area. And I'm going to pass the world scene location called area and make it require a player manager called player. Every time I say so, I feel like sharp accent. Okay, so I just did it again. Bool is player in area is equal to false by default. And then we're just going to return is player in area. Now, we're going to use a switch statement. So we're just going to do a switch, and we're going to switch the area. And now we compare every area here, and all we got to do is, okay, area 1, 0, 0. We're going to say if player in area 01, sub area 0, 0 contains player, is player in areas equal to true. And just do this with all of your sub areas. And if you have a massive game, you might do this with like 45 of them. And if you have a smaller game, you might have like a dozen. So obviously, this whole scene I'm in, as I said in the last episode, this doesn't have to be multiple sub-scenes. It can be just one sub-scene. But because I'm just showcasing the concepts and the functionality here, I've divided this very small scene into even smaller parts. So now we're going to check up top here. If is player in area. So if the player is already in the area, and we pass the area and the player, we're going to simply return. Now, 2, remove the player from any previous locations. Cool, we already have a function to do that. Let's just call that right below here. We can say remove player from previous location, player, and then we can add the player to a new location. We don't have that one right now, so let's go ahead and make that. So right below remove player from previous location, just to make this easier to understand, by the way, I sorted these in order of the comments that we've written in the function above. So private void add player to new location, world scene location, area, player manager player. We are passing an area and a player variable to this. Inside, we're going to do a switch statement on the area. Again, that's why enums are just so handy, so much more neat. And inside this, we can say area 01, sub area 00. We want to do, you don't have to do a check because we're clearing the player from the areas before, but it's better safe than sorry. So we can just say here, if players in area 01, sub area 00 does not contain our current player, we are simply going to add the player to that list. Don't know why my break got put inside this if statement. That was an accident for sure. And put the break after. And then we can do the same thing here for the other ones. Just copy and paste it, and you can change, area 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Obviously, in your game, you probably don't have these called areas 01, sub area 00. You probably have it like me in Nephilim, where it's like area 01, Whispering Woods South, area 01, Whispering Woods North. Names are probably a bit different. Or maybe you have it sub area 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know. So let's save that, and let's call this function underneath the third pseudocode comment here. Add player to new location, pass the area that we're currently in, and we pass the player variable. And then we're going to load the new scenes around the player. Okay, how do we want to do that? Well, we're going to make a private void for load additive scenes around current area. Because, like I said before, you're probably going to want to load more than one scene around the one you already loaded. World scene location, area, past the area we're currently in. And let's make a list of all the potential scenes we're going to load. Now, this is where we could optimize this a bit, because this system is relatively new, and I just made a video on it shortly after making it for Nephilim. But in the future, you definitely clean this up a little bit here and maybe make a functionality to get these lists a bit more efficient. I won't go into that right now, but basically we're going to get a list, and this list for each area is going to be the exact same thing as the generate do not unload list, because these are the scenes you need for each area. So for example, for sub area 00, you can see here we need 3 of these scenes. So we can copy all of these and then paste these here and change the do not unload locations to the scenes to load list. Because obviously the scenes that you want for each area are the scenes that you would not unload if you were in that area. So this could probably be cleaned up a bit in the future to kind of make this functionality more shared. But for now, we're going to continue. I am going to paste this here and just do the same thing for all the scenes that I have in the generate do not unload list. So for each area, grab all the scenes you want to load when you enter that area. And I'll do one more just to show you. So we're going to go to sub area 02. So go to my generate do not unload list, go down to sub area 02. You can see it is right here. And you can see below I have the scenes that I'm adding to the do not unload list. And then come back and bring these here and the scenes that we're going to load. And then we're just going to change the list to scenes to load. And now I'll do the rest off video to save you guys some time. Be right back. All right, there we go. Looks good. Now what happens if we get our switch statement done with all our scenes? Well, we can come in here now and make sure we have a count. So if the scenes to load count is somehow less than or equal to 0, then we know we have nothing to load. So simply abort by saying return. Otherwise, we're going to reference our world scene manager.instance, and then we're going to say load additive scenes, and we pass our scenes to load, just like that. All right, now let's call our function here in our pseudocode comment. So load additive scenes around the area that you're currently in. Boom, number 4. Now, unload any unrequired scenes. This one is equally as important. We don't have a function for this yet, and we're going to put this on the world scene manager instead of the world sub scene manager. So let's just call that right now. It doesn't exist, but that's okay. We're at the code. World scene manager.instance.unload, or rather, let's call it check for unrequired scenes, because you can call this too every time a player leaves your game. You know what I'm saying? Because if he's in a scene that you no longer need and he leaves your game, you unload those areas too. I do that in Nephilim as well. So you can call this in multiple places, really. So we can make a public void check for unrequired scenes. All right, now what are we doing here? Well, it's going to work pretty similar to checking for loading the scenes that are required, in the sense that we're going to use a list right away. But instead of kind of checking the area that we're in, we're going to generate a do not unload list and compare it, the scenes that are loaded to the scenes in that list. And whatever scene is loaded that's not in the do not unload list, we're going to unload. So first do a for loop on all of your loaded scenes, and then add every scene in that to scenes to unload. So this is like a potential set of scenes to unload. This doesn't mean they're going to be unloaded, don't worry. And then add the loaded scenes i.name. Okay, now do a do not unload list by saying do not unload list is equal to world subscene manager.instance.generate do not unload list. And I'm just now realizing we did not make a singleton. go back to your world subscene manager and make a public static world subscene manager, and then make this into a singleton. I've heard some people don't like singletons. I actually don't see a problem with them. I don't find them confusing to use or messy, as long as you just make sure that you're very forward with them and you do them deliberately for important things. But I have heard some people not like the use of them. So we're going to do a singleton if instance is equal to null, instance equal to this. Otherwise, destroy this game object, and then come back here, and we're going to say world subscene manager.instance.generate do not unload list based on player locations. Okay, now we have our list. What's next? Well, we're going to do a for loop, and we're going to iterate through our scenes to unload, and then we're going to check every scene, and we're going to compare it by saying if do not unload list contains this scene in scenes to unload, we're going to simply remove the scene from scenes to unload. And it's just that simple. And now we're going to call our unload additive scenes, and we're going to pass the list. So unload additive scenes, and we pass the list scenes to unload. That's it. Now you can do a check. This is future set-off video. And if the scene count is 0, simply return. Entirely up to you. Okay, let's add commentary for this one as well. So the first comment here is get all currently loaded scenes. The second comment is compare all loaded scenes to the do not unload list. And obviously if those scenes are in the do not unload list, remove them from the unload list. All right, so go into your actual world now and create a box or a sphere, whatever you want. And I'll show you a couple ways to do this. So you could put a trigger, and I'm just going to make this a bit easier to see. One sec. And make sure, again, this is in your world scene, not any of your additive scenes. This has to be in your main world scene. So you could put one of these triggers around every entrance to your scene. So say if I'm putting these around area 04, I could put this on every door that goes into 04, or every way to get in vertically, just like so. So you could do it like this. And then I could duplicate this and put another one, because you can see there's another door over here. So just to really drive this point home, you can see there's a door over here from the lower entrance. And then there's a door on the stairs, and I could do that too. That's perfectly acceptable. That's fine. That'll work in most cases if you're very careful. Or if your world is a simple geo, like mine, you can make one giant box or multiple giant boxes in here. And if your world is not simple geo, you could bring or export your part of your world into Blender or some 3D software, and you can make a mesh, a simple mesh that's roughly the shape of it, and then use that as a trigger. That's probably the best way to do it. But there's nothing wrong with the other way as well. So I'm going to untoggle the mesh renderer and change this layer to event trigger. I'm then going to add a new script. I'm going to call this event trigger, and I'm just going to basically load scene. Now let's create an ad. Now keep the mesh renderer on, and I'll explain why later. Just untoggle it basically. Oh, I've misspelled this apparently, or I didn't call it the same thing as I did over there. So I'm just going to retype that, check for unrequired scenes. I think it was the capital R. All right, I'm going to open up now the event trigger load scene, delete start and update functionality, drop in my namespace as is per tradition. And now we're going to make a very simple function to load scenes when you pass to this trigger. So header, area, and this is going to be our enum again. Our serializable field, so we can see it in the inspector and set it, world scene location, call this area or location or scene, whatever you want to call it, just whatever works for you. Now on trigger, enter. And then we're going to make a function, private void, that we can call this add player to area. We make this require a player manager, a player variable, and we can start. So on trigger enter, we're simply going to do a check first. So let's come up here and say using unity.net code, because if you're not the server, you do not want to run this. Only the server should load scenes on the network scene manager. So if the network manager.singleton is not the server, return. Then we're going to say player manager player is equal to other.getComponent player manager. If player is equal null, simply return. And then we're going to say add player to area and pass the player. Now let's go down here and say world subscene manager.instance load area based around the area you're currently in, and we pass the area that we have on this script and the player, and that's it. So let's save that. Let's go over here now, make sure you set the area, and I'm going to rename this as well because cube is not really helpful. I'm going to name it to the exact trigger that it is. So for me, that's going to be scene trigger area 01 sub area. I think this is 04. And I'm just going to put a bunch of underscores here, so it's naming conventions and whatnot. and change the sub area to 04 like so. And then I can do another one here. So if I duplicated this, bring this down here, again, keep it in the world scene. Go to your sub scene. I can see this is area 00. No, sorry. This one is, in fact, area, 01. So let's change that there like so. I'm going to resize it, and I will do the rest off video real quick. Boom, here we go. And the reason why I tell you to keep the renders on is because you can see, you don't want these overlapping each other. It's very important they don't overlap each other. And when you have the renders on, you can see mine are all a little bit separated. It looks very good. I can toggle it whenever I want to see a visual cue of it, basically. Now, go to your world subscene manager, make a prefab if you haven't already. I forgot to. And go to your main menu. We're going to test this in a moment. Let's save that. I did forget one thing. On your world scene manager, make sure you're calling don't destroy on load. We need this as a persistent manager across all scenes, not just the main menu. Now, if I go into the game here, you can see I'm inside, and you can see as I came in, all the proper scenes loaded, but watch. Now we're going to walk back and forth between a few of these areas. So if I go into the main courtyard, I should have loaded that scene up there, that's okay, but now you can see it working in real time. It loads up the scenes I have set to load, but I should have made it load that back hallway too, because you can see there's a space there, but that's okay. You can see in the scene view and in the game view, it is in fact unloading and loading scenes. It is working as intended. Very awesome. So a couple notes, guys. You see the lighting is broken now. If you want, I can go over how to fix that. If you want to read the documentation, do it yourself, that's cool. But if you would like a video, please comment below. If you want a video on the lighting, I will do a video on that. I could also make a couple more optimization notes on loading these scenes and what I would do if you had a massive amount of game objects in one of these additive scenes. Now, a very important note, test this in multiplayer. And if it doesn't work, let me know, because I had a bug with this for months when I did this a while ago in Nephilim. I did since report it to a Unity engineer, but basically loading additive scenes had some weird quirks with the newest version of netcode, and for some reason didn't want to be agreeable sometimes, but when I downgraded to an older version of netcode, it worked fine and flawlessly. I still use it on Nephilim right now, so if you are testing this and there is any problem, let me know, and I'll make a video on that as well, but it should be fixed by now. I just haven't checked personally. On that note, I want to thank you all, as always, for tuning in. You are greatly appreciated. Thank you so much to my patrons. It is because of you this series exists at all. Thank you to the people who take the time to like and comment on the video. You have my sincerest gratitude. I hope you learned something. I will see you next week for the next episode. Have a great weekend.